Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. It is Sunday Fun Day. I am going to quickly do a little crack of action here because we are celebrating a Cubs victory, a really embarrassing loss on Saturday, unfortunately, but they get the win today. Before we get into all the pleasantries of baseball this weekend, I am Ron Luce, joined by the one, the only, the Juice Man. It's the Juice and Luce show today. Buddy, first off, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon?
Good long weekend. Got to play some golf, and
Love that.
I think the best part about it is that I didn't get to catch yesterday's game and that blow up because I was on the golf course all day. So it was fun. Got to see some friends from out of town come in over at Buzz's house. So I was there yesterday night, and Friday was good too. I went up into Chicago and went to Wicker Park and
nice.
Checked out there's a place, I'm going to plug it on here. I know they're not a sponsor, but if you're up in Chicago and Wicker Park, Big Mini Putt. It's an indoor 9-hole mini golf spot with a full bar and pretty fun place. We had a good time. Went to Goose Island, stopped over there as well, and had dinner and a couple flights of beer. And that's why today I am exhausted. Because when you're running around all weekend, and as you know, living in Chicago, we only get so many good weekends during the summer here. Mm-hmm. And you got to make sure you do all the things you want to do throughout the weekend, because Monday comes way too quick. But going into Memorial Day weekend. So I know I'm going to take some time. You're taking some time soon too. So yeah, man. Excited to finally talk a Cubs win at home, which seems to be super rare these days.
That it does, and it does feel so good to talk about a win at Wrigley. And like you said, man, I'm a little jealous of you because unfortunately I got to witness the whole blow up yesterday, and it was rough. The Cubs hit well. I mean, 10 hits on the day. It's not like they weren't hitting the ball. Just it's coming back to bite them that they cannot score in the middle and late innings, and that's really hurting them right now, especially on days when your bullpen's not always going to be perfect. It's just natural. But for anybody that didn't see that game, Steele dealt 5 innings, only 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks, 9 Ks. He's got 19 strikeouts in 2 straight appearances now against the Diamondbacks. So I mean, if we can just make sure Steele always gets a start against the D-backs every single year, he's just going to absolutely shove apparently. But Martin was fine, and then the bullpen, the wheels kind of fell off. Diamondbacks got some luck as well. It is what it is. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the Cubs lose that one. Won't go too deep into that one. I don't think any of us want to relive yesterday's heartbreak all that much. But we are talking about a win today, and that's where we can be a little positive. I got the W flag on the hat today. I'm all excited about it. And like Scott from Iowa says here in the comments, Northside high fives for everyone. Absolutely. And Juice, I mean, just breath of fresh air, because ironically, I was on the road today. I was watching the game on game day for a good majority of it. And the Diamondbacks took that lead this afternoon, 4-3. And I literally was telling my mom, because we were running errands, I said, this team cannot slug. I said, this is the problem. They get down and then they can't slug. And what happens when I talk shit about people and a baseball team is in consecutive at-bats, both Frank Swindle and Patrick Wisdom spit in my eye and say, the fuck, we can't slug. And they take the lead on back-to-back home runs. Ultimately gets the job done. Keegan gets saved after a little bit of trouble in his first inning of work, but 3 innings and a win for him today. Juice, initial thoughts on today's game. We both got to see it. And like you said, man, wins at home, nothing better.
Yeah, I hand up. I'm in the same boat as you, because the 2 guys who homered today, I've been very critical of. And I think I'll continue to still be critical, because that's who they are. They have been very hit or miss this year. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to have some consistency. The Cubs in general on the road, I felt like have played very consistent. They played very consistent baseball, opposed to at home. They're like 7-15 at home or something stupid like that. Yeah. It's bad. And I don't know what the deal is, if they're, having a hard time playing in that ballpark, or people just feel more comfortable now when they come in as opponents. But the friendly confines have been really unfriendly. And the problem is if they're going to be a team that wants to contend, they're going to have to win at home. And it was good today to finally, get off, because it would have felt terrible if you had a team like the Diamondbacks come in and sweep you for 4 games. And I think now, like you talked about yesterday's ball game, it makes today's ball game feel like so much more like slighted, I think, because it's like, man, like if you just hold on to your lead yesterday, you get a split. You obviously wouldn't want it. But with that said, the way that the Diamondbacks kind of played this series coming in, they took it to them. They took it to the Cubs. Yeah. And I think it's really unfortunate that the Cubs can't play well at home and can't capitalize against these teams, because they played so well on the road and they gained all those games, and they just gave them all right back on this homestand right now. They've lost. They didn't sweep the Pirates, and now you lost 3 of 4. So now whatever you did on the West Coast trip that you didn't factor in, as wins, and they were almost like you found wins. Usually you play that West Coast trip under 500. Most of the time, even the 2016 team, I think at one point played that West Coast trip close to 500, if not under it. It's a tough move. And when you go over and you come out of the West Coast and you have all this success, and then you come home and you're like, man, I got the Pirates and I got the D-backs, and you lose 3 or 4 and you can't win for the sweep in the last one against the Pirates. It's like, man, like, I know these are MLB teams, but the Cubs in a lot of these games have just kind of shot themselves in the foot, I think, in a lot of ways too. Like, the bullpen, usually a strength. You can't really throw it on them because they've been really good this season, but gives up the game yesterday. And, I think we were talking a couple shows ago about closer Robertson, and the fact that it's almost like I'm worried to see him go out more and more, because I want his value to stay high. And he gives up, the runs in yesterday's ball game to get the blown save. But it's it's so un-Cub-like this season to watch them lose a ball game like that. You almost feel very confident that when you get an outing like that from Justin Steele, who's been very good in his last couple outings, you expect to bring home a win, and they just didn't. So today's ball game would have felt really bad if they lost, but now that they won, it's like, man, if you just win one of those games, then you're splitting, and it doesn't feel as bad when considering that you blew yesterday's game. And I think that, like, it would have felt really bad, but I'm the what if type. How did they not win? That second game, that game yesterday. And I think that's what my mind kind of went to after watching today's game and seeing the Cub back. It's like, man, yeah, that's awesome, and I hope they ride this wave. But man, it made yesterday hurt so much more today by not winning it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. I think today's win would have been all that much better. If they come out, you get 2 in a row, you build a little bit of momentum. I think today's game still builds some momentum. I think even yesterday's game to an extent does. Obviously, minus the sail kind of, or the winds kind of getting taken out of their sails because of how yesterday's game ended. But yeah, I agree with you, Juice. I mean, this was a homestand that you really would have loved to see them at least play above 500, 4-3. And they almost had it, right? I mean, they literally had it set up. If they get that win on Saturday, is you get your 4-3, you get a split in a series victory, and you at least feel a little bit better, right? And it's instead you're 3-4 at home after, like you said, an incredibly successful road swing on the West Coast, which historically this team hasn't been able to do very much of. So kind of coming off that high of beating a really good team like the Padres, and then, a respectable team that we've seen in the D-backs. I mean, they're only 3 games out of a wild card position right now. Like, they're playing okay baseball. But it's just like, damn it. These are all, like you said, these are all opportunities where it feels like they're shooting themselves in the foot and not getting the job done. And I mean, like you said, too, the pitching has been great. Even today, I mean, Miley has 1 bad inning, still goes 6, gives up 6 hits, the 3 earned. Overall, though, a really good day from him. 2 walks, only 3 strikeouts. But again, super efficient, exactly what you're asking for out of a guy like Wade Miley. And then Keegan Thompson, every time he throws, just makes me smile more and more. I mean, 3 innings from him, only 2 hits, that 1 run that he gave up, but 4 Ks, doesn't walk anybody. And he ultimately gets the win today. Also nice for the Cubs going into Cincy this week. You don't burn the bullpen today. You burned it yesterday. You used everybody yesterday. Keegan comes in, gets the job done. You only need to use 2 arms on the day, and you get a win. So that's kind of a nice little momentum builder as they go into this next week. But I agree with you, man. It really does hamper it a little bit. It's still cool though, back-to-back home runs are cool and tough, especially when they do it on back-to-back days. You like that. You like to see that out of Wisdom. Hopefully they're starting to build some type of momentum, because I don't know about you, Juice. I was sitting there kind of thinking about this today, just in my own head. And the first thing that comes to mind with this team right now is like, we talked about it early in the season. We actually talked it before the season. It was you, Joey, myself. We all were talking about it. We said this is a team that can be made up of, a bunch of guys, 6, 7 guys that hit like 260 and above. And if you're doing that, you're a respectable ball club if you're getting the pitching. They really need more out of some of these guys. And, and again, we always joke, right, that the Cubs listen to Cubs on Tap, because every time we talk shit, that player goes on a run. So I'm going to call out the Seiya Suzuki's. Yeah, he got a big RBI double in yesterday's game. He's still playing great defense, but it feels like he's starting to not trust himself. And I think a lot of that is just the inconsistency of umpires, because good Lord, I mean, he got called out on a ball today that was 3.5 inches off the plate. But like I think his confidence is getting beat up by this inconsistency from some of these umpiring crews, because he does know the strike zone so well. You need obviously Willie to be healthy and continue hitting the way he has. Ian Happ has been a huge bright spot. I mean, he's hitting 280. I mean, that's exactly what you like to see. And then, you sit here and you look at some of these other guys though, and I'm like, you need 265, 270 out of Frank Schwindel if this team's going to compete. You need at least 240 out of Wisdom if they're going to compete, because you want the power, right? I was literally just saying how I was bitching about this team can't slug. I'll take the one slug bat in the lineup in Patrick Wisdom. But it can't be Jonathan VR, a freshly called up Christopher Morel. Obviously, he got the day off today after the collision yesterday. Smart move. His health is more important. It can't be. You can't be relying on these guys. And yes, obviously, you're missing Nico, who was hitting okay and was starting to come around. It felt like with the bat, but holy shit, they really, 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 really need a little more out of some of these guys if they truly are going to be competitive. And Juice, they have a chance. I know it's, everybody's like, well, this team's not playing that great. I mean, they're 16-24, and they're technically only 6.5 games out of a wild card spot, with how terrible their pitching was in April, with how inconsistent the bats were, especially in late April. Like, there just needs to be more out of some of these guys. And I'm hoping, like you said, Juice, right? I'm hoping this weekend for guys like Schwindel and Wisdom is a building block that they can start to get back to their old form. Because really right now, I look up and down this lineup, the only guy I can say I feel confident and comfortable with right now that's going to consistently hit is Ian Happ.
Mm-hmm.
He's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, and you start to wonder, like, this isn't a small sample size of the season anymore.
No.
We're getting to the point where these are not, just short runs of bad luck, or, there's data behind everything, that has gone on already this season. And I'm starting to believe that this is the Swindle Wisdom we're going to get. We're not getting Frank the Tank last year who hit 300. We're just not going to get that. That's okay. But somebody else needs to fill that shoe. That's the last year when they were fun at the end of the year a little bit. They need guys who, and that's the thing, if they're not going to slug, your lineup, you have to hit for average. You got to be on base. And I think in a lot of ways, like, they haven't really done that. They've been a group that has gone in waves, and you start to wonder, like, if you pulled out a lot of these games from the Pirates out of the equation, where is their offense at? Because there's a lot of inflated numbers because you housed them 15 to or 14-1 and 21-0, and there's a lot of empty, statistics over the course of just 2 days. And you just start to look at this team and you're like, I understand that they're, 6.5 or 5.5, whatever you said, behind the wild card spot. But if they truly want any of that, they're going to have to find a way to find guys to put in this lineup who are consistently going to hit in the 300s and walk consistently. And Seiya Suzuki, I'm not going to worry about him as much because I do think he's going to break out of it. But you're absolutely right. Like, he's a guy that needs to bat in the middle of this lineup and be producing and driving in runs. And he really hasn't. The league has adjusted. And it's up to him to now figure out what they're doing. And maybe, as much as it probably pains him, maybe be a little bit more aggressive. I know that that's not his game, but if they're going to ring you up on pitches, like you said, 3 inches off the strike zone, sometimes you're just going to have to swing and swing at something that was in the strike zone on maybe the 3-1 pitch or the 3-0 pitch. Like, get him green lit, get him moving. And I think that eventually we'll see a little bit of that. But I also think, too, that, like, the pressing comes from it. Because not only are you expecting him to come in and produce right away, but he's in the middle of this lineup, too. And he has a lot of – we talked about it in one of the first shows of the year. He's going to have a lot of different, ups and downs because he's not just adjusting baseball-wise. He's adjusting, his whole life. So,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that they're having a really hard time, getting production, I think, out of the same positions. And it's just nice that today that, like, they broke out of that a little bit, like you said, the back-to-back. But if you're not getting power and RBIs out of the corner guys around the diamond, think about it. That's where the power spots are. Third and first, right and left. Like, that's always how it's been. And if you're not getting production that's comparable to the league average, you're not going to be in the hunt for very long. So hopefully it ends up evening out. And, maybe I'm wrong on Wisdom and Frank, but I don't know because this is a large sample size that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and for everybody that's listening that is maybe sitting here, Josh and Juice, about, giving Patty Wise a hard time all season. Hey, we want to be wrong in this case, right? Like, we want these guys to break out. If they're playing good baseball, the Cubs are playing good baseball. So it's not us sitting here wanting this. It's us hoping that more comes out of some of these guys that, like you said, need to step up in those corners. And really right now I look in the corners. Yes, Seiya is transitioning. I agree. I'm not long-term concerned about Seiya. I just am stating the fact, if this team wants to be competitive this season, they need to get a lot out of Seiya Suzuki. The one guy in the corners that is actually producing is Ian Happ. And maybe it's not coming via the long ball, but it's coming via hits. He's still getting on base and doing good shit. His OBP I think at one point yesterday was over 400. I mean, he's been good. He has been very, very good this season and been consistent, which, holy shit, for years we talked about the inconsistencies that were Ian Happ. If he could be a consistent player, he's a very nice ball player to have on your team when you're rebuilding and when you're competitive. Like, he's a guy that you will take, batting somewhere between probably 2 and 6 on a fairly good baseball team and getting stuff done. But I absolutely agree with you. Also, shout out to everybody that is in the comments on the live show right now. We appreciate you guys. I see them coming in. We see them rolling in. And I want to just touch on a couple of them here. Our buddy Tyler, who was at the game, did some on-site reporting for Cubs on Tap this weekend. Said, "What's up, guys? One positive. Absolutely love back-to-back tanks." I agree. But this series was definitely a bummer. Also notes, no confidence in Andrelton Simmons' bat, none. Just go ahead and put him down for an out. And I agree. They need Nico back. I think having Nico back is going to really help this team. And again, it's just showing how important Nico is. Wisdom on pace for 30-plus homers. Scott from Iowa. Hey, love that. I'm good with, like I said, I will take a lesser average from a guy like Patrick Wisdom if he's hitting bombs, because they need at least one guy that can do that in the lineup. And right now, he's really the only one that is hitting home runs on a consistent basis. He has 9, and is Seiya the next highest, or Frank maybe now with like 5?
Yeah,
I mean,
not a lot of power in this lineup.
Yeah, not a ton of power. It's going to be Patty Wise and the boys, right? As the name of the power surge as it comes. Also, hello to Jack, hello to Ravi and everybody else here in the comments. We see all your comments in here and agree with a lot of the back and forth. Love the conversation ongoing as well. But yeah, Juice. I mean, overall, a bummer of a series. You get beat 3 out of 4 against, again, apparently a respectable Diamondbacks team. This team's, I think, going to surprise a lot of people this year. They're going to sneak up on some teams. I think they're going to give some of those NL West teams a little bit of trouble. Yeah, I mean, they're ahead of the Rockies in the standings, and everybody was like, oh, maybe the Rockies can hit their way to the top. The Diamondbacks are doing it with a bunch of no-namers. Like, Varsho was probably the only, like, well-known guy on that team around the league in terms of talent. Otherwise, and Mad Bum, obviously, on the pitching staff. But other than that, it's a lot of unknown guys that they're stepping up with. Alec Thomas is a Chicago kid, which is kind of cool to see. I'm sure this was he had a hell of a series, too. I got him on my fantasy team. Let me tell you. Great week for Ron Luce's fantasy team. Not a good week for the Cubs with Thomas when he was up to bat. But, I mean, agreed, though. It's nice to get a win today. You would have liked to at least take a split against the Diamondbacks. Would have meant a winning record on the homestand. But they got a pretty favorable schedule coming up as we go forward here. And I want to turn it back over to you really quick before we do look ahead, Juice, just for any final thoughts on this 2-game set, essentially, that we covered for the weekend with Saturday and Sunday's games against the Diamondbacks.
Play better at home. I've said it like on this show 3 or 4 times. You should win ball games at home, especially there. It's a difficult park for visitors to come in and play, considering the pitching. It's either a pitcher's park when the wind's blowing in, or it's a hitting part when the wind's blowing out. And just win some games at home. I'm tired of watching bad baseball from them at Wrigley Field, and it seems like that's just been the case, for a little bit of time here. And hopefully it starts to even out. But like we said, man, like we're over 45 games in the season. I mean, it's time to hit and to win games at Wrigley.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, you said it earlier in the show too, my friend. If you're going to be competitive, you got to win games at home. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. You got to take advantage of being at Wrigley. You got to take advantage of a crowd that still shows up energy-wise on a daily basis. I mean, Pat Hughes even said it on the radio the other night from Morel's at bat. He said, listen to this place right now. You would swear it was a playoff game, because that's the type of energy that Wrigley Field has, and why Wrigley Field is such a crazy great place to play for a lot of these guys, and why it's a bucket list place for a lot of players in the MLB in general to play. So just son of a bitch, like you said, man, take some wins at home. My final thought is going to be, I'm very thankful for Keegan Thompson and the role he's accepted in the bullpen, because son of a bitch, he's done it well. Just a couple quick numbers here after today's game. We mentioned 154 ERA. He's 4-0 on the season. That's cool and tough. 10 games he's appeared in, has made 2 starts, 35 innings, 31 strikeouts to just 10 walks. Much better number compared to last season, when we saw him start to struggle with some walk problems when he went into the starting rotation. So I'm just appreciative of guys like Keegan Thompson and the knowledge that there's more coming. We're on the appetizer phase, but like Brandon Hughes, I'm sure we're going to see Ben Leeper at some point this year. There's other guys coming that can make meaningful roles in this bullpen that are young, and guys that are already on the roster. Robertson got beat up yesterday. Sure. Hughes finally got beat up for the first time. Wick got beat up. But you look at all their ERAs, it's still well under 2. So, like, they're still pitching really well in the bullpen. There's a lot of weapons, and it's just nice to have. So, like you said, Juice, we'll put this one in the rearview mirror. We'll look ahead, because the Cubs travel to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio. Holy hell, if this is not a series you must win. They're saying in the comments, must sweep the Reds. Yes, you can sweep them. Yada, yada, yada. Holy crap. Everybody agrees. I think we're going to agree here on this one, but a little bit of information on this one. So the games this week, they are there for 4 games against the Cincinnati Reds. The first 3 games will all begin at 5:40 local time in Chicago. So Juice, nice early games for you, buddy. 6:40 start out there in South Bend. And an 11:35 start on Thursday before an off day, which is really weird to have on a Friday. And then, essentially you got the 2 with the White Sox this weekend, and we won't get into that because we'll have some crosstown content, I'm sure, of some capacity here. we'll worry about that when the time comes. But right now, the challenge ahead of you, you got the Reds. This is a team you absolutely should beat the hell up on. I mean, Jonathan India's on the IL. You argue he's probably their best player. Yes, they still have Joey Votto. Stevenson has been very good for them as a catcher. But outside of that, like, this is still a team that you need to take wins from, again, if you're going to be truly competitive in the standings over the course of the season. Juice, tomorrow's game, it will be Drew Smiley against the all-dreaded that nobody loves to see TBD for the Reds right now. So we'll see who's starting for them, Lord knows, as of now. But Juice, thoughts for the series as a whole and tomorrow's game especially, with the Reds coming up here at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati?
Yeah, more comfortable with them on the road, considering how they played this season. So the Reds are bad. Beat the hell out of the Reds. Go 4-0, and then, like you said, the schedule is the White Sox for this coming weekend. But they have a nice long homestand too that they play after that. So kind of a weird, like, you played a decent size homestand and then you go on the road, and then you come back just to be back for probably a much longer time, considering that, the game is in Chicago for, the weekend games and on the South Side. But yeah, no, I mean, the Reds lost this week without giving up a hit, or last week without giving up a hit, or that was 2 weeks ago. Like, they threw a no-hitter and they still can't win. Like, let's beat the hell out of that. And, grow closer to competing again. Like you said, 6.5, these are the games that, like, when you look up, we said at the beginning of the show, like, way early on in the year, you're going to have to beat the hell out of the Pirates and Reds, because that's exactly, the route for the Cubs to win a lot of games this year, is to beat up on lesser competition. So, yeah, they're not trying to win. So go out there and kick their ass. But, yeah, I think, as all the guys in the comments said, you have to sweep the Reds. And now that you've lost 3 or 4 to the Diamondbacks at home, and then you're going to tack on that Pirates loss at the end there. You've lost 4 or 5. It's you got to make that ground back up. So win them and then get that back. And then the White Sox aren't playing great baseball either. So let's roll the dice on that. Who knows? Maybe you have a good weekend against them and you're able to get a couple wins, and we can look up next week at this same time and go, we feel a little bit better about where we're at. But yeah, use the momentum that they gained today with the back-to-back late inning, home runs, and let's carry it into a team that is just begging to get their ass whipped. So yeah, please go do it. It's nobody's like I said, like a couple weeks ago, I would love very low stress Cub wins for this next forward, and that is completely doable.
Yeah, games that for this is an if you know kind of moment for Cubs on Tap here. But like when Juice and I hop on the mic and we're literally worried that it's not going to be a 20-minute show because there's nothing to talk about. It means the Cubs absolutely kick the shit out of somebody. And again, it's those low stress wins that just for your blood pressure, if nothing else, that you can use during the course of a season. But Juice, I agree with you. You got 4 games against a team that you absolutely should beat here in the Reds coming up, starting tomorrow. Obviously, we don't know who the pitcher is going to be for tomorrow. But nonetheless, still absolutely beatable ball club. And then, like you said, you got the White Sox coming up. You don't really have to go far from home from that one, which is nice. And then you play 9 games in 7 days against NL Central teams that are ahead of you in the standings, in the Brewers and the Cardinals. Like, that's where you got to bring your A game. And things then they get a little better. They got the Baltimore Orioles for 2 games after that. A couple of off days mixed in there, too, after playing a lot of baseball. So that's going to be key for this team as well. But keeping it a little more short-sighted, 4 against the Reds starts tomorrow. Just get a W, please. Great Americans at Hitters Park. Like, this is the series for the bats to explode, right? The weather's warming up. Obviously not until the weekend locally, but the weather's warming up. Like, this is the time the ball's gonna fly. Put balls in the air. I hope Patrick Wisdom hits, 3 more home runs in this coming series. I hope Frank gets another one. I hope Seiya gets back on the board. We haven't seen a Seiya home run in a while. Like, just some of these guys that are in kind of funks at the plate. Like, this is the series to break out. It's a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Take advantage of it. And who knows what happens. Then you get a really well-needed off day, and then you come home technically for 11 games in 9 days. I say technically because they're just on the south side of the city, obviously. But I mean, that's just a 25, 30-minute red line trip, Juice. You and I have probably done that trip multiple times
Too many
ourselves.
times.
So, yeah. So, there's opportunity here. And I certainly want to see what they can do going forward. I do want to bring up before we totally start to close things down here, Juice. This is on me because it should have been mentioned. Got to give PJ some love today. PJ Higgins coming through with that clutch 3 RBI triple early in the game. Really the only reason that the Cubs had a prayer today. I mean, they led all the way up until those middle innings. Thanks to that, and he did a nice job stepping in for Wilson, who's day-to-day right now. So absolutely agree with you, Scott Famayo, because PJ Higgins has been crushing it at AAA. He's hitting in his last 20 games or some crazy shit, he's hitting 468. I mean, it's unbelievable numbers. So really cool to see from him. So absolutely agree there. And just to answer a quick question here, Ravi, yes, that is correct. 16th win today. They're 16-24. They are not far from 500. And I absolutely agree. This is the series, like Juice and I said, where you creep up the standings a little bit. Maybe you get some luck against the White Sox, and then going into that series with the Brewers and the Cardinals, you're not looking as far up anymore at them in the standings. And that's, I think, where the Cubs want to be going into some really important games with them. Again, let me hammer home 9 games in 7 days between the Brewers and the Cardinals. You got the doubleheader on Memorial Day. You got a doubleheader that following Saturday with the Brewers and Cardinals, respectively, in that order. So it's going to be a lot to do. But Juice, before we get out of here, your fly the W pick for this Red series. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with Seiya Suzuki. I think that you're absolutely right about that being a hitter's ballpark. Feast on some bad pitching. And if the Cubs are going to win 4 in this series, he's going to have to produce. Him, Wisdom, Swindle, keep it all going.
Yep, I absolutely agree. I love the pick. I really don't know who I want to pick on this series. It feels weird. I'm going to go with a guy though. He always has the kind of Kyle Schwarber effect against this team as well. Even though he's from Pittsburgh, he really likes playing in Cincinnati. I'm going to take Ian Happ. I'm going to take Happer to maybe get a couple homers. We haven't seen a lot of power from Happ yet this season. Plenty of average. Again, he's hitting 280 something. I'm not mad about what he's doing. But unload on a couple, Ian. Let's see some tanks here, and that's some dinger dollars for those that work with the Connect Roaster guys and are subscribed with them. I'm sure Ian Happ would love to deliver, not only for the people, but for his team. Worth noting, Joey was flaunting in our group chat. He couldn't be here to flaunt about it, but his Patrick Wisdom pick looked really good after this series. My Morel pick looked decent. He had a decent series. And then Juice, you took
Willie, not so good. He got hurt.
Injury, though. He was good otherwise, I would say, in the series. Just ended up getting hurt. Sucks. Hopefully he's okay and not out for the long term. But yeah, man, I really like your pick with Say. I'll take the other corner outfielder with Hap. We'll get Joey's pick offline and we'll deliver those before tomorrow's game. Again, 5:40 starts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Cincinnati, local time here in Chicago. So East Coast, 6:40 on the Eastern Daylight Time Zone, and then an 11:35 game on Thursday. So that'll be a nice early one. And I'm actually off work. So we, the collective we at Cubs on Tap, will be able to come live hopefully right after that one. And then we ride into a little bit of an off day as well for us on a Friday. And encourage everybody. And encourage everyone to participate in the Kraken movement. I know I will be. And I hope everybody else is too. And let us know how your weekend's going and your week's going. And let's hope the Cubs do some good shit. But just before we get out of here, I'm out of breath, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to deliver this like I normally do. But Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check out all of our great work over at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. You can follow us, the pod-specific account for Cubs on Tap. We are at Cubbies on Tap, Cubbies. That's Twitter and Instagram. I am at Luce on Tap on Twitter. Juice is at Juice on Tap on Twitter. Follow everybody else as well that contributes here. Tyler is at Teddy Freddy 270. Joey is at Joey Knows Nothing. That ends in IN because that stands for win, baby. And all the other great people here that contribute to Cubs on Tap. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, we got it all as well. Bets, golfing, you name it. And yes, Cubs fans, we all have friends that like the Southsiders. Our Sox on Tap crew does a good job covering them as well. So be sure to send your buddies over to them on that side as you continue to listen over here with us at Cubs on Tap. Once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media, the On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Juice, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday.
The collective, we will be back here at Cubs on Tap this week after all the games. They're very time friendly, and that's going to be a good one for us. So, and hopefully, like you said, Juice, Cubs can carry some momentum into Memorial Day weekend, but we will carry some momentum into Memorial Day week and get out of here the only way we know how, buddy. Let's go.
Fuck the Cardinals.